Hello and welcome to the next instalment of the Breaking Barriers series. So for anyone that loves a bit of pointless detail, this is the launch of series 2 and we're here with Marie Collyer, and we were just chatting about how we met in a quite unusual way, but given that we're going live on LinkedIn, I think it's a good one to share. And so it was a reach out through LinkedIn, and I think I might have slipped into your DMs, didn't I? And the reason I share this is I was sharing this with clients the other night because I talk a lot about personal brand with my clients and sharing a little bit of yourself and picking the things that you think are going to connect, but you also feel safe to share. And so the thing that made Marie respond to me was I have perimenopausal sea swimmer in my headline. And she wrote back, I'm one of those too. So a friendship was born, and we've chatted quite a lot since, haven't we? So we have. Welcome. I'll give the proper profile intro. And so Marie's worn many hats through her 45 years on the planet, including her current role of COO in financial services. She also prides herself on being a mum, a grandmother, whichever you prefer, shocking to believe, yoga instructor, and advocate for pursuing the things in life that promote wellness and peace, which I love. And this, she messaged me the other, this came up in chat. More recently, she's also a law student to top it all off. And all that spare time you've got knocking around.
Indeed.
And you said navigating perimenopause in recent years has been a humbling experience, to say the least. I can concur with you there. But you're now looking forward to seeing what this next stage of life has to offer. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. And I'm particularly excited. I always have a pre-chat with everyone, and listening to your story has blown me away. So I'm really excited for you to share some of your journey of how you got to here. And so I'll just let you take it away there.
How long have we got? I was born in the UK, grew up in Ireland, grew up in very rural Ireland eventually. So we moved around a little bit when we were kids. I didn't actually, so I sort of reached COO now these days, but sort of reached that path a little unconventionally, you would say. So I didn't actually finish secondary school, didn't get a leaving cert. Did a couple of courses after I'd left school, but at 20 I had my son, who's now 25, with his own little daughter. She's 3 months old, so that's where the nana comes in.
And the glamorous nana.
Glamorous nana. She's absolutely amazing. Really, we're really happy to have that tiny little addition to the family, which was unexpected but very welcome. I had a baby very young. And at that age and at that period of my life where you've got a small child, it was all about, bringing money in, putting food on the table, and surviving, right? So you do all sorts of jobs. So, I mean, if I was to go through every job I've ever done, we'd be here all day.
Okay. Give us some of the...
But a few, and my favourite actually, which I shouldn't say because obviously where I work now is my favourite, but my favourite job was taking care of the elderly. I did that for years. So I worked in a home for the elderly. Later on, I worked in a home care environment. So I took care of predominantly Alzheimer's patients and dementia patients. So it was a great job. So I did that. That was my first job, and then I have cooked pizza. I've waited tables. I've worked in a fish and chip shop. I had a cleaning business for a few years, so cleaned houses, had a little team of people who worked with me, and we buzzed around house to house. We did domestic house cleaning. That was also great, very satisfying to leave people's homes beautifully clean for them when they get home from work. And they were always very grateful. That was also, that was an experience. So I've done lots and lots and lots of different jobs. I've been a florist. The list is endless.
When did things shift from that, like, survival? You described it just a minute ago to me before as survival jobs, but not all of them were. I mean, very satisfying and
very satisfying. And I think I call them survival jobs because they were gone into in the view of earning the money, but and ended up being very satisfying. So it's jobs you're not seeking them out with your career path in mind. You're just doing what you need to do to be able to to pay the bills and look after the little one. And then it was actually, I moved to Malta. So I relocated to Malta in 2009 and was there for 13 years and very accidentally ended up in my first office job. I worked in customer care and also loved it. And I think you can find something to love about every single job you do, unless it's really dreadful. But you can find something to love. And the bit I loved about it was speaking to people. So you're getting a quick snapshot of somebody's life in a few minutes on the phone when you're in telesales. Did a little bit of face-to-face sales. Did some great sales training in that job, which sort of then built the foundation for moving into a more corporate environment. I actually ran a home care company. I was care manager, so I managed the organization, and we did a lot of great work in Malta with taking care of the elderly and people with disability in their own homes. Was devastated when that stopped because it was a financially unsustainable sort of line of work for that company within Malta. So it was it was really unfortunate, but that was also great, very, very satisfying. So did that for a few years, and then when that finished, I think I'd hit a point where I was really, really sort of devastated about that not working. We'd worked so hard. I worked with a great team of women, some really inspirational women in leadership in Malta to get that where it was where we we felt like we were really making a difference. And when it ended, that was when I decided I was going to stop all that. Packed myself up and went to India for 6 weeks and trained to be a yoga instructor. And wow. How I got into the yoga was a different story, because I had, after the cleaning business, I had a lot of back pain. I found out I had scoliosis, and I was really injured for a while. And it sort of triggered off this, sort of spout of a little bit of depression, a bit of anxiety, panic attacks, and not being able to sleep. And I think it was all around this fear of, where was this pain coming from? I'd been very fit up to that point. And also it was a little bit of PTSD. We'd lost a family member when I was very young. When I was 23, lost my younger brother. He was 19. So a lot of it was starting to, it comes out in the body when you don't deal with it emotionally. And it was coming out over a period of a few years. So, I'd been in a lot of pain. I'd got into the yoga as a result of that, as a way of finding a way to fix the pain, make myself feel better. Loved that also. And then decided to be a teacher. So dragged my 17-year-old off to India. He turned 18 in a yoga ashram, which he's never forgiven me for. And then I taught yoga full-time for a few years in Malta, which I really loved. But got back into a corporate job when the needing to earn the money to by teaching yoga took the joy out of it. It was more, I got into yoga to make a difference to people, to help them with their anxiety and their depression or, physical need. And the joy is gone if you're relying on the money coming in. So then I did a bit of both. So I taught yoga in the evenings, and I had a full-time job. I was sales manager for, and that's when I got into financial services. So I started as sales manager, had a little sales team, moved into head of operations for a few years, and then decided to come back to Ireland. Applied for jobs here, and the current company I work for was one of the companies I interviewed for, and they offered me the job, and we packed up 4 dogs and all our belongings, and we moved home to the middle of nowhere. We live in Wexford in the countryside.
Wow, and to a much colder climate.
Yes, indeed, yes, yeah.
What a story. And I think what really comes out and shines out of you is that attitude of finding something you love in everything you do. It sounds like you bring your full self into everything you do. So what is it, what sort of beliefs and, things do you have that help fire up that attitude and mindset, do you think?
I think it's from having worked so many years where you're working for survival. So I'll do anything to anything within reason that I need to do to earn a bit of money. I'll do that if I have to do it. And I think when you start to realize that you are capable of doing that. So while it's a struggle at the time, I know that tomorrow if I had to go back and wait tables or clean toilets or do any of those things, I would perfectly be capable of going to do that, and I think it's that belief that you're willing to do what it takes to survive, right, which I am. And then when you're doing those jobs, you can always find something that is will give you a little bit of joy or satisfaction. So you might be cleaning houses for a living, but it's very satisfying to look at that beautifully cleaned home and then also see it from the point of view of that person's been out working all day. A lot of my clients had small children, and they come home and it just looks pristinely clean, and it's that that you've done that for them. And it is a way of earning. It was a way of earning good money at the time, but it was also, there was some satisfaction to be found. So I think it's just that belief that if you work hard enough, you will be fine. You got to put the hard work in, you'll be fine, and you can find a little bit of pleasure in everything. There's always it's not fun all the time, right? But it's hard work, but it's there's always something to take from it that gives you a little bit of joy. And I think I always enjoyed physical work. My brain is 90 miles an hour all the time, which is why even in the job I'm in now, which is not physical, I sit behind a desk, but I practice yoga every day. And, I like to be out on my paddleboard, or we go walking and hiking and all those things. But the physical activity is something that I've always enjoyed. Probably got that from my dad, actually. We used to build garden furniture together, or, be hammering around with some dangerous tool in his tool shed when I wasn't supposed to be. But yeah.
Love it. And so do you think that's where your mindset of I can learn anything or work it out came from, that you've had to learn anything?
I think so, because it's not a conscious thing that I do, but I drive my partner mad, because he'll be stressing about something. It's not that I don't stress, but he'll be stressing about something, and my answer to everything is, if I don't know what the answer is we'll work it out, don't worry. Because now I think, after so many years of being in really bad situations, no money, not knowing how I'm going to, really, really tough situations. And I did work it out, you work it out. So there's evidence that it works itself out, or you work it out. So now I'm comfortable thinking, okay, look, we'll work it out. We'll be fine.
And how do you think all this experience then, all those different jobs and getting stuck in and working it out, has changed you and made you the great leader that you are today?
I think it gives you a little sense of, so you need a little bit of a sense of not taking it too seriously, right? Nothing is the end of the world unless somebody's dying, or very sick, and, nothing's the end of the world. So, it gives me that ability to stay quite calm. Nothing really rattles me when it comes to work, or, things that are not really affecting your life, like somebody being very ill or passing away, those kind of really tragic things. If it's not that, then, I just really believe I'm going to work it out. And then I think because I'm quite calm, although, outspoken and, get very passionate about something if it needs to be done, I think it gives, or at least I hope, I give that off to other people, that will work it out. It's not, nothing's worth getting that stressed about, that, especially at work. It is important, and you have to get things done, but it's not worth, sacrificing your mental health over.
Yeah.
So if you need to ask for help, or you need to do something differently, or you need to take a different, different look at something, or approach to something, do that. But don't let it grind you down.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful for anybody that works for you, because taking away the fear of owning up to a mistake, or not knowing how to do something, or where
Yeah.
to go next, that takes away so many obstacles in the
But
workplace.
also, not being afraid. I would hope that, people, and where I am now, it's not. I don't have as many people reporting to me, but I've worked in environments where there's lots and lots of people reporting into me, and I would like to think that I make it clear from the beginning. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's no such thing as being afraid that you don't know something, because I have spent my life not knowing things and then having to learn it as I go along and working it out, and I've luckily never really been afraid to say I've got no idea what that is, or what does that mean, or can you explain what you just said? Because if you're constantly trying to pretend you know things that you don't, it's very stressful. So I've got no shame in saying no idea what that is.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things people avoid, feel like it betrays a lack of confidence, but I think it shows supreme confidence to be able to
Yeah.
say, actually, I really don't know what that is. Can
Yeah.
you tell me? You've got the curiosity and the guts to just own it. I've loved what you've shared, because one of the things I didn't say about Brie is, after she saw me put perimenopausal sea swimmer on my LinkedIn profile, it's now on her
It
headline.
is.
Really love that. Um, but you've got this no fear attitude about talking about perimenopause, and you've mentioned anxiety and depression and those things. And so, tell me about how that's had an impact for you. And
I think because and at the time, actually, probably suffered quite quietly. I was high functioning, went to work. Nobody knew that I had really bad anxiety, terrible insomnia, was living on 2 and 3 hours sleep a night, but still functioning. Because, back then I don't think I would have been in this headspace to talk openly to people, especially people I worked for. And it was not as a, sort of an open and comfortable environment. I'm lucky that where I work now, it is very easy to have those conversations. And I think it's just a different time now. But I think for me, having gone through, periods of that sort of mental health issue, I'm just not willing to let it happen again as a result of something I have no control over, right? We're all going to hit perimenopause and menopause. We can't stop that. It's just a natural, normal part of life. And I just find it really bizarre that women are put in a situation where they might feel embarrassed or ashamed, or whatever all the things are, because of the stigma, when you have no control. It's going to happen to you. You can't stop the symptoms. You can't you can't control any of it, apart from to get the help that you need, to go and ask for the if HRT is the route you want to take, go and get help with that. And even that's not very easy. So I think for me, it's just, why would I be afraid to talk about something that I have, is going to happen to me, whether I talk about it or not? I'm not doing it to myself. It's just life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting though, because I'm doing a piece of research on this, and I did just a LinkedIn poll quite recently about how women feel about speaking up about it. And almost half, I think just over half, said either they didn't feel comfortable to, or they felt it was career limiting.
Yeah.
And that is such
It's
a
really,
shame.
it's a real shame. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose I've never really. So maybe a little bit of my belief that what's not meant for me, will pass me by. So if talking about menopause upsets somebody I work with or work for, they're not for me, right? So I don't have that fear of this might. I just think, if I can't be authentically who I am and what's going on for me, then that environment's not for me. Like I said, I'm very lucky. My poor boss knows all about my perimenopause. He gets a weekly update. And he's a great guy. He's very supportive, and it's hilarious.
and what I mean, that's what a great way to be, because you're not just helping you, but you're equipping him. You're changing the conversation in the workplace for others, and that's the thing. I always think if you can talk about it, then you're doing everybody a favor by doing it. And so there'll always be people that can't for whatever reason, or that feel they can't. And so when we can step up and use our bit of platform to say, hey, well, this is what's going on with me, it might be what's happening with someone, it makes a big difference.
And I've been part of organizing. We had a great event. We have a women at Paysafe network, and we had a speaker come in and give a talk about menopause, and and there's loads of things that you can do. We can do as an organization, and organizations can do to get that out there. There's train the managers and all sorts that can be done.
Right.
There's no real excuse for it not being just a accepted normal everyday thing that should be able to be talked about. It's as normal as childbirth, or if somebody can talk about the fact they just had a baby, they should be able to talk about the fact that they've got they're perimenopausal or menopausal.
That's it. And I'm loving seeing so many businesses do that. And one of the things, as you know, I'm passionate about is taking it beyond just talking about the symptoms and wellness, that actually what's the impact on your career. And quite often, as women are in the most responsible position to date when this happens, and it can be really challenging to navigate that leadership path with all of this going on. And so, how have you found that?
Well, I think to be honest, that would have been more difficult if I hadn't have been, because I think what happens to a lot of women is there's a lot of subtle symptoms, if you haven't got night sweats and hot flushes, you don't think you're perimenopausal. So I had a couple of friends who'd already gone through it, and I generally, equip myself with knowledge about things anyway. I like to know what's going on. So I'd already done some research. I'd looked into resources, what your options are, all those kind of things. So I already knew. So I went armed to my GP with, here's what I would like you to do, and he was very reluctant to do it. But I was lucky that I have access to a women's health clinic. And they were great. It was just quick chat, check. They were also very thorough about some medical checks that they had done for me, which I wouldn't have thought of needing to have been done. And I went on HRT. So I've been on HRT, I think, for about 9 months, but I'd never had a hot flush or a night sweat. It was all the other symptoms that had come with it, And then more recently, they've added testosterone to my treatment. So I've only been on that maybe 2 months, I think 3 months. So we'll see. I've not got any feedback on how that's going yet, but that's the latest addition to my treatment. But I'm just like, it's a real, because I think people expect when you're like I was a barefoot hippie yogi on the beach for a while, that you're going to be really anti medication for these things. I'm just like, whack all the hormones in. I will not survive without them.
Another reason we connected so well, because I also, despite my description of the hot flush at the start of my TED talk, I also have never experienced it. But I have a real problem with the language around it, because a hot flush, I don't think, really captures what happens to women. And so that's why I did want to use the most common symptom, but also to actually say, this is what it really looks like. But like you, I have the Mirena coil, so it means I didn't have periods, so I wouldn't have noticed any differences with that. I didn't have hot flushes, and so it's that creeping onslaught of symptoms, but it's so you can explain everything away as something else.
And unfortunately,
the
doctors will try and explain it away as something else, even though it's glaringly obvious you're the right age. But then there's confusion around what does the right age mean, because it can start 10 years before you're ever full-blown menopausal. And I just think the lack of knowledge and the lack of in the medical profession is shocking, really shocking. And also the detrimental effect of not having those hormones in your body has on women, and if you leave it long enough, it's not always reversible, bone damage and all, and all of those things that come with it. But I'm fully, appreciate that some people don't want to take HRT, and that's exactly how it should be. That should be everyone's choice, but they should be equipped with all of the information to make that informed choice, and the information's not out there in general.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, because I'm on a lot of forums and I see people making statements based on really old information and false research and that kind of thing. So yeah, and I'm going to be doing next week's Breaking Barriers episode is going to be me talking about menopause and some of the things that you can do for yourself and some things that businesses really need to be stepping up and doing, and that focus on career and leadership, because it is a challenge to navigate those situations when you've got that going on.
Indeed.
So I think one of the things that I'm really interested to hear from you, Marie, is about you've done so much in one lifetime already. I think you've lived 4 people's lives, really. So out of all of that, like, what are you really proud of?
So, because we were chatting about this before, and I was trying to come up with an answer to that, and then I brought me back to an exercise I'd done at work, which was we were asked to write a letter to our younger selves. What advice would you give your younger self? And it was career orientated, right? So from a career perspective, and it got me thinking when I saw the question, saw some of the questions, and I think for me, what I'm most, and this might sound really weird, but what I'm most proud of is that, 18, 19, 20-year-old me, the one who just had no idea life was going to get better and be fine one day, and that I was going to, not have to worry about how to pay for holidays or, or buy the nice things or do all the things that I want to do, or, paddle out for sunrise on the Mediterranean, all of those things. There was none of those things were in my line of vision. I had no money. I had no education. I had I was super smart. I knew that, because even academically, when I was in school, I did great, but I didn't have the tools that were going to make it easy for me to get the well-paid job. And, I had a small baby. And I think the most proud that I am, the most proud that I am is of that person, that 19-year-old who just knew nothing about what was to come and still kept grinding anyway, kept going to work and believing that even if it was not the best job at that time, that it didn't mean that was my forever job. I never really believed that, when I worked in a fish and chip shop or I did all those things, I don't remember ever thinking, oh, this is it. This is me forever. I'm going to be doing this forever. I just thought, yeah, we'll get on to the next thing and work towards the next thing. And I was always looking for something to study or looking for something to, looking for some idea to make money that I was going to work for myself. And, so I think that's
Wow.
I'm very proud of little Marie.
I'm not surprised. A powerhouse.
She was feistier than 45-year-old me, I can tell you that.
I can imagine she was formidable. Mind you, you're feistier than I think you believe now. And so when you think of all that experience then, what does now 45-year-old Marie think success means for you?
So I think, I think people in general, but women especially, we give ourselves a really hard time, right? That we're not at the point we're supposed to be at in life. And I think what my life has taught me is that there is no timeline for when you're supposed to achieve things. So I've just started a law degree at 45 just because I felt like doing it, because I wanted to be a solicitor when I was 12. That's literally the reason why. And it's, I think success is if you're doing the best you can in with what you've got in that moment, then that's success for you. And to think that it means, oh, I have to have a degree, or I have to be earning this amount of money, I should be married by now, or I should have already had a couple of kids. My partner and I have been together for 4 years. I was on a roller coaster of what I'm trying not to swear.
Well, anybody that knows me knows I don't care about that. But
very turbulent history of my love life, and then met this angel 4 years ago. But at a point where I had got my mind, body, everything else together. So I think success is whatever you think it should be in your own time, on your own terms, according to your timeline. That's what success is.
So I think we've established you're not the ornery COO. We maybe know you're a yoga instructor. You've done every job on the planet, and I know we can't see it right now, but you like your tattoos and that kind of thing.
Tattoos, full sleeves, yes.
Full sleeves. And so, how have you found that's gone down in corporate world, and how have you navigated that?
So I am obviously, look, I mean, I think you have to be very realistic and reasonable, right? If I wanted a job badly enough and they wanted me to cover all the tattoos, I would cover them up. Don't have a problem with it at all. And I totally understand it. There's certain environments where, there's certain dress codes for an office environment, and I understand if that would also mean cover up the tattoos, which is why I don't have any, that it can't be covered. But no, I'm very lucky. They really don't mind. I mean, I'm not customer facing. It's I'm operations in the background. So I think the fintech industry is very progressive anyway. It's
kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a bit cooler. So the tattoos haven't been a problem, but I would also not have a problem covering them up if that's what was needed.
Yeah, well, I do get a real sense that, and I've said it already, that you bring your full self to what you do, and so I'm guessing, like, when you were interviewed and all the rest of it, that's part of what they want is, and I talk about this a lot with clients as well, that if we mold ourselves into something completely different through interviews and that kind of thing, when we get into the job, we're going to be either really unhappy or completely not what anyone expected. And so it's a good thing to show up and find, well, this is the organization that works for me and fits with me, and I can be myself here, and then I'm going to bring my best.
No, and that's exactly it. And I think the closing advice I had to my younger self when I had to do that exercise was that you be unapologetically you always. And if it's not for you, it will pass you by, because I'm fully on board that, you have to have a level of professionalism. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be truthful about what your skills are and all of those things. But you also have to be able to be you, and bring your personality and not feel like you're constantly hiding it, in the way you dress. I have a fabulous friend who lived in Malta for 3 years, and she's since moved, but she's very senior management also. And her dress sense is, she's just the most flamboyant. I met her wearing a pair of sparkly pink Doc Martens once. That was the first time I met her. And I now own a pair of sparkly, which I've worn to the office. Everyone in my office can vouch for my pink boots. But it was that friendship with her also, it also, you just think those are the women I want to be my example of how you progress through your career or through life, is that you just, within reason, obviously, but you should be able to express yourself through the way you dress, and and whether you've got tattoos or not, and you've got lippy on.
Makes sense. You're gonna be your best you, aren't you, when you full you. But there's always stuff we want to keep out of the workplace and whatever. We don't have to bring everything, but just don't be hiding who you are. Love it. Okay, so if you were to think of, you've said that the advice you would give to you back then was to be unapologetically you, which we love. What would you think would be good advice for anyone? I think it's going to have been really inspiring for people to have heard your unusual career path, because too often we hear the same old story of, university, worked your way through all of that. Anyone that's wanting to step up and do a more senior role, that's maybe holding themselves back or thinking, my path doesn't fit that, what would your advice to someone be?
I think for me, it's, you've got to, because there's a balance, right? There's a balance between jumping into something that you're really not ready for, or attempting to do that and then, really being disappointed, and working towards a point where you know that, you might not know it all, but you can definitely give that a good, give it a good shot. And I think there's this random car guy that my partner follows, and his tagline is, and I hear him saying it all, and I hate it, I don't watch it, but I just hear him say it, and he said hard work beats talent, and that's what he keeps saying. And I think if you are hard working enough, and you just really believe that, you might be doing this whatever this job is now, it might be something that you don't really think is very worthwhile, but that you're always learning something that you can take somewhere else, or into a more senior position, or into, I mean, even waiting tables, you learn how to, navigate difficult personalities, and, how to be diplomatic with feedback, and, and say no with a smile, and, all of those things. But there's lots and lots of things that you can be learning along the way. And I think you have to have your eyes open to the fact that whatever you're doing is teaching you something. Don't write it off as worthless, because then you don't learn the lesson. You don't learn whatever it is that it's teaching you. And then don't be afraid, when you have put the work in, don't be afraid to jump up a little bit higher than you thought you could, because we all work it out. Everyone's winging it. Everyone. I promise you. Everyone's winging it. It doesn't matter how qualified you are. I don't and that's not to take away from the people who, because I think, those people who've done gone through school, college, university, whatever, they've also had to work very hard. It's a different type of hard work to get them to the same place, but it doesn't mean you can't get to the same place without all that education.
Love that. And you're right, they are still winging it. I always say to clients, like, who went to CEO school? Nobody. It doesn't exist. There's qualifications, there's experience.
Yeah.
But every job you go into, there's always new things thrown at you that you just have to make it up. We're all winging it, and it's recognizing that I'm at that stage where I can wing it a bit higher now.
Yeah. And it really is about believing that you can, because I really don't believe that there's anything that I could not learn how to do. I might not want to learn certain things, or, certainly don't want to learn how to change the oil in my car, for example, but I would be able to, and I really believe that I would be able to learn, pretty much anything if life meant I had to.
Brilliant. What a great place to finish up. So it is, like, if you believe that, then what's there to be afraid of?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today, Marie, and
Thanks for having
sharing
me.
your story and lots of wisdom. And I have no doubt that you will have inspired many people to be the unapologetically themselves, to believe that they can always grow, and to go for that step higher. So thank you.
And do a bit of yoga.
Do a bit of yoga. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. So yeah, you'll have to get me back to doing yoga.
Thanks so much, Sinead.
Thanks, Ray.
Take care.